and I just started really going on this rabbit hole of understanding that everything is made up. Like everything is made up. And I have creative power to make stuff up too. That it is not a power that's only relegated to some mysterious white man in the like in the background, like control on Get Smart, which now makes me feel old that I made that reference. But that that I actually have agency and power over what I experience in the physical world, the non-natural physical world, as anybody else. That because it's all just made up by like some people. And that just really set me on a path of like understanding first my own experience um, with urbanism and like with the city as a playground, as a library, as a classroom, as a stage, as I've grown up in cities and traveled through cities around the world, but also I wanted everybody else to have that same agency because I like people and I want to have a good time. And I'm like, I need all y'all to come outside so we can have a good time.
So, yeah, I don't think people think a lot about their environment, the built environment, the fact that the way that we live is imagined and it's designed, and a lot of times it's purposeful. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if it's purposeful, we can design it in a way that's purposeful, in a way that helps us all thrive and live a better, healthier, more connected life. And so, very excited to talk to you and share your work. Um,
Yes.
yeah. So I guess to get started, I know you, but other people will
Mhm.
not know you. So introduce yourself.
Okay, well, I am Carmen Mays. I am born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama, inside the city limits. Okay, that's a distinction I like to make because now everybody's like, we're from Birmingham, and Birmingham is this big thing, and it didn't used to be that way. People were very happy about making their suburban distinctions, but I am a city girl. Um, I grew. I guess in these times it's now important to say I am a cradle Catholic. I was born into Catholicism, unlike some other people's in high-ranking office. Um, and that has also been a very integral part of my life. My parents, my father and his siblings, as well as my grandmother, were all educated in Catholic schools. And like the role that Catholic schools played in educating Black folks, not just in Birmingham, but across the South, is a documentary that I should probably work on at some point. But um, being raised in that tradition of high quality education, as well as heightened critical thinking and questioning, which people don't often associate with religious schools, that we were very much allowed and encouraged to question, even all the way through high school, where I was in open disagreement with one of our priests about just war theory in the Iraq War. So, um, all of that, being Black, being raised in this rigorous environment of education and religiosity, but also like this global perspective and understanding that um, like the world is big and you are a part of it, you have a great impact, but the world is big and we should not just limit it to like our small space that we can see. Um, that really like as I've become more reflective as I turned 40, like those were things that were very instrumental in like solidifying what my personal constitution is. Um, I got into I've always been interested in publicness. Um, my undergraduate degree is in foreign language and international trade. And I originally wanted to go to the foreign service and eventually become an ambassador. Um, I can still do that. So that's not off the table. But in graduate school, because I graduated undergrad into the Great Recession, I I encountered local government for the first time through an adjunct instructor, and I just kind of fell in love with how impactful local government is. And then like I met some planners, and I just started really going on this rabbit hole of understanding that everything is made up. Like everything is made up. And I have creative power to make stuff up too. That it is not a power that's only relegated to some mysterious white man in the like in the background, like control on Get Smart, which now makes me feel old that I made that reference. But that that I actually have agency and power over what I experience in the physical world, the non-natural physical world, as anybody else. That because it's all just made up by like some people. And that just really set me on a path of like understanding first my own experience um, with urbanism and like with the city as a playground, as a library, as a classroom, as a stage, as I've grown up in cities and traveled through cities around the world, but also I wanted everybody else to have that same agency because I like people and I want to have a good time. And I'm like, I need all y'all to come outside so we can have a good time. And so I've just been thinking about and working towards this agency, like helping people, one, understand that this is made up. And as you mentioned, some of it is intentional, it is racialized, it is classist, it's sexist, it's ableist, among other things. Um, Getting you proper context so then like you can also like free yourself, liberate yourself, and explore your own agency. And how is the city a stage for you? How's the city a library for you, a classroom for you, a place for you to explore? And that's what I spent my career like working towards. It doesn't feel linear at all. Like I think about like almost 20 years of being in like publicness and exploring this stuff. And I feel like I have been all over the place. But it all like makes a good soup to put me in the space where I am now to really be thoughtful and explore and to generate curiosity and thought in other people about just simply asking or wondering. I what society has done to wonder, to where that you just walk around and you don't even like your brain doesn't even consider what's happening around you. You have acquiesced to a particular inevitability that is actually not true. Like nothing about the future is inevitable. The present is barely inevitable. And so like this just idea that people exist in the world and don't even wonder, like that's dangerous to me. That to me is more dangerous than China. It's the idea that people's natural curiosity and human nature towards just hmm, just a wonder, just a thought, has been essentially turned off by the way our society functions. So no one ever questions why they don't have sidewalks in the neighborhood. And because mobility is restricted, you may not ever get to another neighborhood and realize they got sidewalks. Um, or, how Black people's mobility is different. Whether we're in a car, on our feet, on a bicycle, you can still get stopped by the police. And how that affects how you feel about just simply naturally moving in space. So I feel like I rambled a little bit.
No, you didn't. I was trying to control my face and make sure I'm not like too beamy, but at this point I'm like whatever. I'm deeply inspired by this. Can we talk a little bit about I just want to sit on you saying that everything is made up
Hmm.
because I think that I don't quite know when I came to that realization and like fully embraced the idea that things were made up. I think I might have come to the realization that just people are just do like nobody knows what they're doing. I think that's the first maybe little seed, and then it was everything is made up. Um, so can we just talk a little bit more about that very real truth that everything is made up? Because I really don't think that people realize it. But it's really freeing and liberating once you do realize it
Mhm.
and come to accept it, you know?
I think the walls, well, I know, not I think. The walls for me started to come down when I went to high school. So I went from I live in a black neighborhood. I live in the same neighborhood I grew up on the same street. I'm 3 doors down from my parents. Black Catholic church. I went to a black Catholic school, K through 8. So I lived a very black life. The McDonald's in my neighborhood is owned by a black man. My dentist was black. My pediatrician was black. Like I didn't know what white people was doing because we was in Birmingham. This was back when Birmingham's population was like thick. Like we were, 300,000 plus strong, and it was just this very like I don't know. It was almost like there were parallel worlds, and like everything we needed, everything the way we moved was very much steeped in blackness. And then I got thrust into predominantly white high school, and as much work as my community had done to normalize blackness, the spectrum of blackness, right? Like I knew like black mayors and like black crackheads and everything in between. Like it was like the full humanity of blackness. Like I knew like I wasn't confused. I wasn't like into like elitist blackness where I was like, we're only like this. Or I wasn't like in a poverty mindset of like, we ain't gonna never be nothing. It was like somehow these baby boomers created this space where we saw it all. We knew all the possibilities. Like it was just like all the possibilities, all the possible ways of being black. And um, even in all of that, white supremacist thinking still like permeated and still existed. I remember going into school thinking, I was well prepared, very intelligent, had scored well, had gotten into honors classes, and I didn't have imposter syndrome. I think my assumption was that everybody here is going to be like super smart
Mm.
because that is the white supremacist indoctrination of like, whiteness is better. And I was like, oh, I'm super smart too. So it's gonna be, oh, we're just gonna be any super smart people. And not they weren't super in my thinking at the time, they they weren't super smart necessarily because they were white, but I also understood at that time resource distribution. And I knew that even though I had great teachers and I was super intelligent, I had not had access to the same things they had access to because of resource distribution. And I remember getting there and being so let down by white people. And I was just like, guys, what are you in here doing? Like, you're not all smart. And even your smarts aren't that smart. Right? You're not all wealthy. I remember coming home to my aunt was like, "Did you know white girls wear acrylic nails?" And she was, and she was like, "Yes." And I was like, I ain't never seen a white girl with acrylic. Well, I ain't never really seen too many white people, but I thought we had cornered the market on like nails, right? Like the whole thing, like white people wearing extensions. I was like, why would they need extensions? So I was like, there were just so many things I did not know about white people. And I think being able to do that in high school while I was still forming myself, that I was able to actually humanize white people and not continue to internalize white supremacist thinking about white people. Because in case some white people see this, I don't want y'all to think I hate white people. I'm just trying to explain how America works. This is how America works. And so I think once I started to understand that white people are human too, and that everything that exists for us exists for them, and I got to see them in a more raw context. It wasn't like their more finished selves when we like got to college. It was my first time. It was like puberty and acne and like breakups and divorces and like body dysmorphia and like so all of these very human things that happen in those teenage years really kind of like brought it home. It's like, oh, well, these are just people. They're not this thing that lives over the mountain. And then, so like once I got to that, then I started just like looking at stuff, and I'm like, hmm, well, if these just people and they made that, and I'm just people too. Then like so the thought just progressed from there that, oh, I can do stuff, that I am just as capable, and I can make stuff up too. So like they're born my audacity to be like, oh, well, if, Robert Moses can displace a quarter million, black and brown New Yorkers because he wants to build the BQE, then surely I can do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Because surely he's not more human than me. He's not special. There's nothing different about him than there is for me. And then so it just kind of went from there. It's like, oh, well, if you can make it up, I can make it up too. So I just, started making stuff up.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, that's a really liberated kind of thing to be able to, first of all, have and believe, and then to move through the world with. Um, but I also acknowledge that there's that very real part of the world where Black and brown women aren't really encouraged or quote allowed to move through the world that way. Have you ever experienced, I guess, challenges by challenging essentially the way that we live in this world and the way that places are designed?
Yeah. I mean, I remember people, and even today, like people are like shocked, right? Like this is like they're like, "What you mean? You just be doing?" I'm like, I thought, oh, we're not all doing whatever, and I don't. I think people think they can penalize you, but I don't believe that, and I don't internalize that. Going back to particularly as a woman of faith, but whatever faith you are, whatever faith tradition you adhere to, or spiritual tradition you adhere to, it is all the same when it talks about what is for you is for you. So I never believe that anybody can block anything from me. Now you can make it uncomfortable for me, you can make it challenging for me, but you cannot stop me. But I can also make it challenging for you to challenge me. So I mean, and this is again, I am now 40. I get to reflect when I was in my 20s. I didn't have the articulation and the like self-possession yet to be that way. So I did experience self-doubt. I did, experience the phenomenon of pet to threat,
Yeah.
um, which happens to all Black women, I believe. And you don't, and it can be from anybody. This idea that, oh, you're so great, we love the way you speak, we love your educational background and what you're doing, want to bring you in, and when you get there and you blossom into the excellence that you are, it becomes threatening to the people that hired you, and then now you gotta go, right? So I've experienced that more than once. I think the support of my family and friends, I think the groundedness that I have because of my spiritual practices has weathered me through a lot of that. And I always like, well, I don't have to do it anymore because social media does it. But I don't have to keep tabs on the people who like messed over me because social media does. But like I see how it comes around. I've seen, people who have fired me from jobs like my LinkedIn posts and like, oh my gosh, you're doing so well. Like as if like they're surprised, right? That I be doing so well, or like their own guilt, like their own realizing, like, oh dang, like we messed we messed that up. Because I do believe that people at some point do come to the realization that they have done wrong and that they have messed up. Like I don't think like people just be walking around to the end of days and don't know what they've done on this earth, lest they be confused at judgment. So I think people are very clear. Um, but yeah, I think like in everything, I just remember always thinking, keep going, even if it's like an inch. Just keep going, keep going. It's on the other side. Just get to the other side, and that has always proven to be like a good practice. But yeah, people suck and people are jealous. Like envy is like number one on like the reasons list for like most anything in the world. Um, and the amount of envy that Black women experience for just simply surviving what would have destroyed other people. Like the way we be is envious. Like people envy that. And then you like throw on like some kind of academic or professional excellence. And then like, we don't age. And then like, we're curvaceous and supple. And like it's like all these things. So like I get it. And I think part of me kind of like empathizes. Like I know if I were you, I hate me too. So it's okay, just it's okay. So yeah, it sucked. A lot of times, there were times I was like deeply depressed, and it really sucked. There are times that my enemy was within, that it was other Black women, that it was Black men, who were seeking to, if not stifle me, to like siphon my gifts without credit and compensation. Um,
Which is very colonial, white
it
supremacy.
is.
Yeah,
And
like a hallmark.
yes, this extractive relationship that people want to always have with Black bodies, particularly Black women, um, whether it is our knowledge or the literal fruit of our womb. And it was awful going through it. But I always knew. I was like, one of the things I tell people is that I don't believe that God would taunt me with visions that I could not achieve.
Mm.
So even though like I was in the midst of like really hard things, I wasn't like giving up never crossed my mind. Like I wouldn't like I'm not giving up because I can see like as clear as I'm looking at you in this camera, I could see the things in my life. And I was like, I gotta get there. I just gotta get there.
Mm. I when you talked about envy, I while you were talking, I was like, I don't know. I think it took me a really long time to realize that envy is a real factor. And I think maybe that's like a protection for me. Like I just
Mhm.
things would happen, and it's only like in recent years that I'm like, I wonder if that was because, but I just had blinders and I was like, I don't know why that happened. I'm not going to try to, figure it out. I'm just going to keep moving, pushing through. But the envy, yeah, as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, I see it now. Um, and you talking about vision and seeing it very, very clearly. Um,
Mhm.
I very much identify with that. Um, and I think it's really incredible that you have that in you to be able to see the vision and to keep going. Because there's so many people who, I don't even know if people realize that it's a vision that they're seeing in their head. I think some people just say, oh, it's just a hope that I have, or it's just a dream.
Mhm.
But I think that there are so many visionary people in this world that don't recognize that as one. I think it's like a gift. I don't think that I think that ideas and visions and dreams are like very real living things that come to
Mhm.
us, that are given to us. And I don't think that people realize that to some extent. I almost sometimes I say like the vision that I have in my head, it's like a future that I'm catching up to. Because you're
Yeah.
right, it's so clear that it just what else could it be if it's not real? But I think so
Yeah.
many people don't realize that that is a like those are very real things and that that can actually happen. Your present self is just catching up to the reality of it.
Yes. It's like it's I tell people it's like it's already happened. Right? Like it's like, oh, this happened. And it's like I'm I'm more like I'm recreating something as
Mm,
opposed to creating something. And it's so real that like I can have feelings, like I can perceive it with my senses. So it's not like, oh, a passing dream. Like I can feel it in my body. Like it is a very present, like the emotions around it are connected to it. So it it's almost like downloading instructions, and like that it gets into my body, it's in my mind, and then like I can't help but walk it out because this is what I've downloaded into my body.
And I don't know if it's the same for you, but I see little nuggets of it in like in the
Mhm.
present, like little like almost little breadcrumbs of like,
Yes.
okay, because and I don't talk about this that often, so I feel like sometimes I know like I know I'm in my right mind. It's just a very
Mhm.
strange feeling to have a feeling that something is happening or has already happened or that you're catching up to something in the future and you're seeing little breadcrumbs of it. That I think
Yeah.
maybe that's like something that God or the universe gives us to give us like a little bit of momentum and encouragement to keep going.
I love a God wink, but like,
Me too. I call it that
I mean,
too.
but this is our tradition. So when we think about like, pre-colonial African spirituality and just like our customs, we talk about, we grew up hearing about signs from our grandmothers and, what does it mean when you see a cardinal or, like ladybugs or, like the things that we use to explain what we're experiencing. And and I recognize it out loud. Like if I'm like, I was in New York last weekend with a good friend and we were talking about something that we wanted to create. And I was talking about things that I miss, right, artistically. And it was photography. I said, I miss Black photography and not event photography, and no shade to the event photography people. But I'm like, where are our Gordon Parkses? Who's just documenting Black life? Because social media is not an archive. Like what you post on Facebook or the pictures you post on Instagram or wherever things go now, because that's the extent. Like I can't really get into TikTok, and I bet I don't do the threads good. But like, how do we explain now to future Black folks? And we don't have no pictures and videos of it, or
Mhm.
like portraiture, like bringing back like the art of Black portraiture, and like, because I'm tired of like us not having pictures like simply for obituaries. Like that bothers me real bad. That like it's an AI like picture. I have seen. Do you know they're using the AI for obituaries?
No.
Because I was like, this is not Uncle David. And they said, well, they didn't have no pictures of him at his age. So they just, and I was like, oh God, no. So anyway, I was just thinking, I'm like, we were in the Studio Museum in Harlem, just reopened up. Everybody go see it. And I was like, Black folks need to be taking pictures. And then, like, for the rest of the weekend, I kept seeing photography. I just kept seeing Black people in pictures. And I was like, we got to do it. I said, oh, so it's done. Not we got to do it, but we have to make the space, the opportunity, I don't know, the whole, right, for what exists to fill it. So yeah, I think we are in constant communication with God within the universe.
Mm.
I don't think prayer ends. I think prayer is everything. Like, using my gifts and stewarding my gifts excellently is a form of worship, right? I'm not being wasteful with what I've given. So like all of it to me is prayer and conversation and worship. It's like I am doing the things that you have put me here to do, and I know it's the things that I'm supposed to be doing because I like it. um, but yes, I love the God winks. I love even the reminders when it's difficult, and then like you just catch a break, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something related to it. Like, like out when I was leaving my hotel, I had extra bottles of water, and I didn't want to throw them away. And so I sent them to the front desk, and I was like, "These bottles have not been opened, and I'm not some like lunatic. You have my ID. I'm not a weird person. I just don't want. I don't want these bottles to go to waste. It just seems wasteful to put them in the trash can." And she was like, "Thank you," and like she gave me a discount on my hotel.
Mm.
And I was like, oh damn, like that's cool. You know, but I had also been like having a particularly difficult time in another part of my life. And I was like, well, that was really nice. That was a really nice experience, that just kind of like recalibrates the nervous system and like your thoughts. So I agree with, I'm all in on hoodoo, honey. I have, my kitchen is painted haint blue. Like I am all in on like accessing and understanding that like these are not separate realms, so to speak, that we're all flowing in these spaces together.
Yeah, I will say it's probably only been like the last maybe like 5 or so years that I've come to that place within my own like a spiritual journey. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like for me growing up, we were like heavily in the church. We were not Catholic. We were uh what was it? What did we say? Independent Baptist, like Southern Baptist, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it wasn't like your experience where you are allowed to question and ask, you know. So for me, that was one thing. It's like everything has a answer, and if you don't have an answer for it, just pray about it and maybe God will answer it. But like he never does really because, there are some things I don't think have. I think there are some questions of life that don't have answers or that we
Mm-hmm.
won't figure out, you know. And then like my upbringing in school was like predominantly white schools. And so I kind of was brought up in this weird mixture of like going to black church and having a very black family, but also like education wise, like predominantly white. And so there's that mixture of like my grandparents being very much of like signs and there's, some things don't have
Mm-hmm.
explanations and there, things like that. But then the other part of my life was very much everything should have an answer and it has to be logical. And if you don't have a logical answer, then there's no such thing as signs. It's just coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
So I have spent years getting to a place where I've settled into this belief of there are signs and God winks and things like that. Yes, very much settling into the hoodoo of things and the like seeing the connection of African spirituality and how it
Mm-hmm.
still plays a part. So, um, I hope that more Black people will, reach that point because to some extent I feel like let me know if I'm rambling, but just give
No,
me
go
a
ahead.
second. Okay. To some extent, I feel that need to have an explanation for everything, like a logical explanation, that kind of chokes out the life of having a vision or a dream or being able to see beyond.
Mhm.
Um, that was just my thought. Right.
I mean, I agree because I think the premise of questions that we feel like we can't answer is that the answer is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, like, no, it's not. Like, knowing that or not knowing that thing doesn't preclude you from doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's almost functioning like an excuse, like a choke. It's a trap of you. It keeps you from expressing your full self because you think that if you can't answer this, then that must be the sign that you shouldn't do X, Y, and Z. And when people would ask me that, I was like, is this answer necessary? Like, do you need to know this in order to know the rest of the stuff that you know and to do the things that you need to do? Like, I don't like you don't. Like, you don't need to know why so and so act like that. They crazy. I don't know. Maybe not. Who cares? Like, that's not your problem to fix. But what you need to understand is how to move around them. So you can go on with what you're doing. And I say this as a person who is a deep thinker, and why be is my favorite question. I love analyzing things and people and trying to understand them. So really, so I can best serve them, like not in a way to be like, more gossipy, or in a way to harm them. Like I'm only trying to understand people who hold like intimate space with, like, you're in so much proximity towards me that, like, we're like two meteors and we can hit each other. So it's like I need to be able to exist with you. But my understanding is really just rooted in trying to work with or serve with, like, a person. And that only extends so far. Like, once I just get tired of trying to figure out, because once I realize that I can't figure you out because you haven't figured yourself out, I'm out. Like, I just disengage. I'm like, this, like, I don't need to go on a never ending quest. I'm like, oh, I have my answer. You don't know either. Okay. And so we'll just take it as it goes. Um, but I have found that this is a not necessarily unique, but a good deal of people are not um, good question askers. So they don't, of course, they don't interrogate the world. They don't interrogate themselves. They don't ask whose voice speaks their beliefs. I remember going through that process in my 20s and 30s of thinking, like, do I think this or does my mother think
Mm-hmm.
this? um, and, just like figuring out who I am, what my own voice is, what my own thoughts are. Um, so yeah, but I think, yeah, it is a choke. It's a trap. It's what it feels like when you're sitting and you're waiting. You think, like, and it's like a false progress because you think, like, I'm just like, I'm trying to investigate this, and and it's like busy work that prevents you from getting towards the thing that you're supposed to be getting to.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. How does your how does all of this inform your work as it relates to placemaking? Because I know what you've told me, which is a lot of people who are involved in placemaking are not people of color.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with that, I would imagine that your lived experience and the knowledge and wisdom that from you talking about how integral like your spiritual life is with your work and the way you approach it, how does that inform your approach to placemaking?
Yeah, so fundamentally, it's about agency. Like, the reason that placemaking, particularly in the United States and Europe, um, I would say this hemisphere in Europe, where you have predominantly white power structure. Um, Aside from, like, the white power structure, but the output of that is that they feel autonomy, like they feel like, because the whole historical record that we've been taught and their existence has labeled them as discoverers and creators. And so, like, they have this agency that they can go and do whatever. So from my perspective, placemaking and urbanism is foremost about creating agency in disenfranchised folks. It's like getting you to get, so it's less to me about, like, the chairs and the murals and, like, the activities that we're doing. It is about getting your mind to wrap around the idea that you have autonomy, you have agency, you can self-determine, and you can act, because those are values that extend to your whole life, not just what we're going to do to this parking lot. And so, if I can get you to figure out and believe that you are in charge of yourself and that you too have the same rights to act on this physical environment as anybody else, that also helps you at work, that helps you at church, that helps you in your interpersonal relationships, that helps you just period in life. So that's my approach, and that's why I take it that way. I don't My approach is probably much more, it's cerebral and emotional. It is like I'm trying to dig something out of your body. Like I know it's in there because I know where we come from. So I know it's in there. And I'm just trying to figure out, well, what kind of dance or what kind of prayer or, countenance I need to use to awaken this in you that has been dormant because of the repression we've experienced in this society and how people have told you it is not ladylike to be loud or domineering or it's best to move in silence like lasagna. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, but if you don't say what you want, you won't get it. um and like to tackle that fear of everything including death that Black people have and other people have from being visible. Like being invisible has been a survival technique for centuries. If you just don't look at me, if you can't see me, you can't kill me. And I'm asking you to flip that on the head and be like, you're already dying. Like, I hate to break it to you, but you you're still dying. You may as well go out on your own terms. So just like for me, it's about activating those things and through placemaking activities, getting people to do this. But like I guess the secret's out. Like my overall goal is to get people to have their own agency and self determination and audacity, so they go and act on the world, and then like thusly, like it changes our world.
Mm. So we talked about visions and dreams and how people don't even realize a lot of times that what they're seeing is a vision. How do
Mhm.
you activate that in people within communities to see that things can be different and to see that everything is made up? And I guess maybe another part of that is um, I know you mentioned sidewalks, but what
Mhm.
are other aspects like of placemaking that you would see um, and create within a city?
I love porches and front yards. I miss front yard culture. Um, and that's something that like I really want to bring back. Um, like there's some kids live across the street from me. They play in the front yard. Um, like my neighbor sits on her porch. I'm actually in the process of having. I will start like redoing my front and backyard so they are basically place made spaces where I can have discussions and cocktail hours and parties and performances in my own house. Um, but a lot of it is like how like being outside and just like the concept of visibility, right? So obviously the history of wanting to be invisible so you don't get harmed, but I also think about like not wanting to be seen because of what you may be experiencing mentally and emotionally.
Mm.
So irrespective of the white gaze, you know, you don't want me to know that you're poor. You don't want me to know that you're a single parent or a single mother. You don't want me to know that you may not have it all together. You may not want me to know that everything is not like what you make it seem on social media. So like you trying to keep up the appearances also affects how you exist in the physical world because you cannot contradict that appearance with your real life. So that makes it difficult to say, hey, just come on outside. We're having a block party. And then you might think, well, if I come outside and you talk to me, you may realize I'm not well educated, or you may realize that there's something, some other deficiency that they identify, and that they don't want that to be shared with the community. Um, that is the hardest hurdle to jump. And that is what I see very often in people with their rigidity and the things that they reject. Or we don't want to do this. We don't. It's like you don't want to be seen. You don't want your humanity to be on display because you identify their vulnerability as something that is dangerous to you. Whereas I'm like, bring your black ass outside so we can have a good time. I'm like, come on. And it's like, where you're able to accept and relish in yourself. And so I think, you know, that is, what I want to work on more. It's like I can see you anyway. It's also it's like I can see you. I can count. I know there are 5 children. I can see one adult. Like I know what that is. And there's nothing new here. Like we've all experienced life. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. And I hate shame. I don't think shame ain't even real. Shame is like it's not even an actual like natural emotion. Shame requires that someone tell you something to be ashamed about. Like you can get angry without anybody's input. You can only feel shame with someone else's input. And I guess overall, like it's my placemaking practice, working on front yards, working on porches, getting people outside their neighborhoods. It's also really about like combating shame. Okay, your house doesn't look as good as the next person's house. So it be like that sometimes. But if you want to do something about it, let's talk about how we can do something about it. Um, so I think so. I hope they answered the question.
Yeah, it does. I think yeah, I didn't even think about the role that shame would play in in as a barrier to the work
Mhm.
of placemaking. And honestly, I guess in general, because a lot of times people don't want to think about shame. It's like shame, you
Mhm.
already feel the shame, then you don't want to think about it. And so then you just kind of push it away and you don't really think about why or like how the role of shame plays in the way that you move through the world and show up. So no, that's very insightful. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also sometimes unintentional. It's like because somebody told you something one time when you were like 7, right? And you have carried this. And so like but the us rest we don't know nothing about it, right? So we're just like, hey, how you doing? And you're like, we're like, what's wrong with them? But it's like it's like this thing that burdens you. And it's like shame is such a convenient vehicle for someone else to burden another person with their own insecurities and their own like shame, right? Like it's like tag you're it. And I just, I'm just like, or you could just not. And I think the option of not just doesn't seem to appear in people's mind. They think that, well, this must be the way. And my second favorite question besides why is or what. Because people will say things. I'm like, or what? Let me make an informed decision. Tell me the or what. Like what else? Like if I don't do this, or what? And for the most part, there is no or what. You just don't. You just don't participate. Don't do it. Try something else. Do it a different way. Um, and so I think people are bound by that restrictiveness and the restrictiveness of shame and not willing to explore the idea of or what. I know because I've said it before and people are just like, what do you mean? I was like, if we don't do it, what he gonna do? And like they just never considered it. They had just only perceived the threat. They had never considered what the follow through was gonna be. And as a child who got whippings, you got to have a follow through. It's not like it's like it was very clear. If you don't do what I tell you to do, then this will be the consequence. But for some reason, like people get into like other spaces, and I'm like, you got to lay out the consequences for me because I gotta weigh it out and see if I'm willing to accept this. And on a very trivial level, it's happened at the airport. I was coming back from Europe, and Delta was like, "Your bag is like 10 pounds." It was small. It was like something I could. I was like, "Girl, I don't have 5 pounds worth of stuff to take out here. I don't know what that means." And she's like, "Well, we'll have to charge you." I said, "Okay, well, how much is it?" And she was like, "You don't know what to take." No, I don't want to take stuff in my bag. I want to know how much it costs because you're giving me this thing like you're like this almost threat, like you have to do. Okay, or you have to pay for it. Okay, well, how much does it cost? Because I'm not going to sit over here and dig through this suitcase. And like the shock on her face of like, "Oh, you'd pay?" Yeah, because I'm not going to dig through this suitcase. And then eventually, anyway, I didn't pay. She just took the suitcase. But the moral of the story is ask people the or what, because more often than not, they're just as afraid as you are, and they are not prepared to follow through. Very few people are prepared to follow through. Like, very few people are willing to bust a grape in a fruit fight. And, it's my favorite way of like just de escalating and just neutralizing so many things. I'm like, oh, what? Let me see. I might take that other option. What you got? I
Yeah.
mean, I've done it at work. People are like, "Oh, or we'll fire you." I'm like, "Okay, cool." "Well, we don't want to do that." Well, why you bring it up? Like, why you bring it up if it's not really on the table? And so, yeah, people be lying and they be bluffing. And so, call their bluff. People of America, of the world, the universe, call folks bluff all the time. See if
What
they'll walk up.
what I'm gathering is asking why. Honestly, I
Mm-hmm.
don't ask or what enough. And I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why that is. I think maybe honestly, I think for me it's been like I've yet to hear like I keep going until I hear no, and then after that I just try to figure out, okay, if I can't go through the door, how can I go through the window? If I can't get through the window, do I have like a saw so I can like saw through that's kind of my mindset. But asking why or
Mm-hmm.
what, and then also not being afraid of being visible. Those are three things I think you said I think will radically change the world, honestly. Um, and it's a bit of a challenge, I think, because you're right, like for so long our safety has been in hiding. And
Mm-hmm.
so for many people, what you're asking them is for them to be the first. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a challenge, for a lot of people to be the first to choose to be visible or to put themselves out there. But it's very important, though. I think that we are in a place now, especially as I think we're witnessing like the downfall of colonialism. Um, Visibility, I think we're safe to be visible.
Yeah. And what was I thinking? I had a thought, but also, and like how you are visible is important too. I think the over indexing on digital visibility, um, and the second Trump administration, how we've seen the shift of Black folk not congregating online in the same ways. That we're like out with each other together. I got a whole list of Black activities I want to do this summer, and places I want to go. I'm like Harlem Street Market. I'm coming back. Like I'm like, Jazz Fest in Atlanta. Like we like because it has been like with doxing and all these other things, like people are making it harmful. I don't know how doxing works in the South because we're all allowed to carry guns for no good reason. So I don't, I'm like, I don't think this is, don't do that. Like, don't just show up at somebody's house
Yeah, that's
because you're
like the
going to be
ultimate or
deported.
what. That's the
Yeah,
ultimate or what.
yes. I'm like, hey, all right. Um, but I think like, because like digitalness had become such a thing and how people have made it like so hard to be online. And I'm like, it's harder to be online than it is on in person. Just meet me down here. And we can do something, or having a block party, or having a yard party, or a meeting at the library, um, for admin day with some fellow entrepreneurs, or doing a bar crawl just spontaneously just walking and trying drinks. I just think like hopefully we are in an era where we are retreating from this digital space and going back to like actually physically being with each other as humanity is intended to be. We are social. And although I want y'all to start leaving y'all dogs at home, come anyway. Because I just, it's, as a non, I grew up with a dog, but I've just never been an animal person. It's not who I am. I'm not against animals, but like this is my little soapbox of like leave it at home. Like dogs be wild. Like they don't need you. Leave a dog at home. And come on out here because a dog jumped on me last night, and I was like, I feel like this is a microaggression. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, why can't you control your beast? It's like, what
I
you do?
I will say, my senior dog, she is best at home. And she's hard of hearing now too, so she's a
You
little
know,
one. She's little, but she's she's a house dog.
yeah, and that's fine. And if I
Yeah.
came to your house, I would understand it, and it would be up to me to be like, you know what? Can we just meet at a cafe? Because I really don't do dogs, and then we can decide whether or not we can go forward. But I know that ain't really got nothing to do with it. It's just an experience I had last night, and I was like, why this lady let this dog jump on me like this? You know, and just the assumption that we would be okay with it. As a person who is allergic to everything that lives, I was like, please get your dog off me before I break out into hives. uh, but but I think like this has been a great conversation, and I like your
Yeah.
takeaways about asking why, asking or what, and being visible. Um, I think those are like really the antidotes to anything that you're experiencing. Um, and also realizing like this ain't living, as Marvin Gaye so aptly told us. So like being the first or being, or take using the courage you have to make a different decision, or what? It's like this ain't living. Like you ain't saving nothing by existing this way. Like this this is not the abundant life that you were promised. You actually have to go out and get that because we live in a society that tries to keep that from people. So if you're wondering like what the trade-off is, it's like life. Because this ain't living. Like you go get your life. Make it worth it. So you're not laying there on your way out of here thinking about what could have been or what you could have been, um, had you just used your courage and just went for it.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much. Very appreciative. It's always great talking to you, of course.
Likewise.
Um, I guess if you would like, would you like to share where people can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me online. I know we just talked about that, but CarmenMaysMPA.com is my website. I'm also on LinkedIn, Carmen Mays MPA. I don't do a lot of posting on social media. One, because I'm an elder millennial, and two, because I don't want to talk about business like that. But anytime I'm doing an event or there's something going on that I want people to know about, you can find it on my Instagram stories. I'm not a grid poster often, but Instagram stories are a great way to keep up with me and a lot of my shenanigans. But mostly you can find me in real life somewhere. So, use my website as a tool to contact, but then we gotta figure out how to be in the world in person so the surveillance won't get us. We're just getting us anyway. But I don't even want to start that conversation on block cameras. But yeah.
Well, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for sharing your purpose and your gifts with us. Um, I think we met 2016, 2017. So it's been
Yeah,
almost 10 years.
that's
And
crazy.
I just knew, I said, oh my gosh, she's so remarkably talented. And not just like your ability with like the visual art, but like I could see the thoughtfulness and the intention. And it's, one of the things that I crave in artists as they come up and the artists that I gravitate to, I'm like, this is a thinking person. This is not just a person that draws well or can, manipulate these tools well. That this is a person that has a thought, that developing a point of view or has a point of view, but it's like also in conversation, like with like the whole canon of like, oh, this is like you understand that you are in a relay race, that you are not in a sprint by yourself, that you are a part of this great continuum of artists and intellectuals and thinkers. And so I am so appreciative that you have chosen this, and decided to put it out into the world, because we thirsty and we need more of it. So I am equally, if not more, honored that you have chosen to share with me than me sharing with you.
Thank you so much. That really does mean a lot. It's just been honestly creating Reverb and Root. I tell people it's honestly like been like 10 years in the making. So probably around the time that we met, I was already thinking
Mhm.
about um how again, I guess maybe that was when I was starting to think about like why things are the way they are and like how can we share stories and have a place where these stories live and how can we build together and create together and support each other in doing that. And so, thank you so much for those words and for recognizing that in me 10 years ago, which is
Yeah,
crazy to
you're welcome.
say.